Morning. We light this candle in honor of Judaism. We shall beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But we shall sit, every one under our vine and under our fig tree, and none shall make us afraid. We light this candle in honor of Confucianism. The ancients who wished to illustrate illustrious virtue throughout the kingdom first ordered well their own states. Wishing to order well their states, they first regulated their families. Wishing to regulate their families, they first cultivated their persons. Wishing to cultivate their persons, they first rectified their hearts. Wishing to rectify their hearts, they first sought to be sincere in their thoughts. We light this candle in honor of Buddhism. When we realize that the world is a mutual, interdependent, cooperative enterprise, that human beings are all mutual friends in the process of birth, suffering, old age, and death, then we can build a noble, even a heavenly environment. We light this candle in honor of Islam. Cloak yourself in 1,000 ways, and I shall know you, my beloved. Veil yourself with every enchantment, and yet I shall feel your presence, most dear, close and intimate. I find your face in ivy that climbs in clusters of grapes, in the morning sun in the mountains, in the clear arch of the sky. You gladden the whole earth and make every heart great. You are the breathing of the world. We light this candle in honor of Christianity. This is the message that ye heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. Let us not love only in word, nor in tongue, but in deed and in truth. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear. We light this candle in honor of Taoism. Returning to the source of its serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, and dignified as a king. We light the final candle in honor of the first people. O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, I ask for wisdom and strength, not to be superior to my brothers, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make my hands respect the things that you have made, and make my ears sharp, so I may hear your voice.
Good morning. Good morning. Today's reading comes from our founder, Ernest Holmes. We shall know that the truth we announce is superior to the condition which it is to change. We shall see that God in us recognizes God in the other person until the God in the other person recognizes God in us. This cannot be done by human will. It is only when we recognize the pure essence of the spiritual principle inherent and incarnate in each of us that we find that the thought arising from the atmosphere of spiritual realization has no adversary. So if you will, please take a few moments with me to contemplate today's reading in silence. And so here and now I recognize that God is ever present. Inherent and incarnate in each of us is the one. Flowing through all things and all people, God is here among us, with us, as us. And so I know that because of the presence of God, all things that occur today are exactly as they should be. The message that comes through Reverend Cece has something in it for each of us. All things are in order. All are present that should be. It is divine, it is beautiful, and it is centered in love. And I am grateful for it and all who are present. And so it is.
And so it is.
So I guess all of our plans are going to get rained out tomorrow, huh? I hope you find some way to celebrate freedom this weekend. And we get a day off. How good is that? But also, fireworks and barbecues and all those other things. I take the time to simply acknowledge what it is you're really celebrating. And because it's the month of freedom, we're going to talk this month about 2 spiritual practices that make us more free and keep us more free than any political alliance or process could ever do. And those 2 spiritual practices are forgiveness and loving kindness. Part of our organizational global vision, which describes a world that works for everyone, is this. We see a worldwide culture where forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm. Well, for forgiveness to become a cultural norm, it first has to become a personal norm. And it requires deep courage, which is what I want to talk about today. Forgiveness isn't something that most of us grew up learning, at least not in my house. I grew up in a house where forgiveness most assuredly was not the norm. It was not. I grew up watching my parents hold grudges against each other and other people for eons. And in my house, if someone held a grudge against you, you had to keep a reciprocal grudge, right? Whether you were mad at them in the first place or not. If they had a grudge against you, you'd better have a grudge back against them. And you never, ever let go of it. So when it came time for me, on the instructions of my first sponsor in AA 30 years ago, to forgive my mother, I discovered that what I had to do first was find the courage to do that. To find the courage to do that. The first thing I had to do was come to see that forgiveness work takes perseverance. It takes, as the playwright John Osborne said, muscle and guts. It takes muscle and guts. It takes courage to go against the grain of what we see all around us. It takes courage to admit our part in the whole mess to begin with, right? And so I think in order to forgive my mother, what I had to do was first realize that I wasn't seeing clearly. I think the first thing we have to do to forgive is see clearly. And I had to come to see that my refusal to forgive had nothing to do with Mom and everything to do with me. It was all about, my obsession with taking everything she did and said personally. When I was around her and I let my unforgiveness show, it made me feel worse, right? Yeah, I was still taking everything personally and totaling it up and keeping it on my list of things to be mad at Mom about. But it made me feel worse. It made me feel terrible. Every time I obsessed about how she wronged me, my darling, how she wronged me, I should have written a country western song about it, But every time I did that, I had to deal with the resulting hard, gnarly, ugly pellet of resentment that was within me. And everything I took personally just made that thing grow. What I had to see clearly was that my unforgiveness hurts only me. And another thing I had to see clearly was that forgiveness doesn't mean I'm condoning what someone else does. My forgiving mom was not going to undo what happened in my childhood. It was not going to undo the physical abuse or the shaming or any of that kind of stuff. What it meant was that I was no longer going to let my past ruin my present and future. Because the longer I dragged it around, I did this for the first half of my life, you know? The longer I dragged it around, every time I dragged it forward into one day, it automatically colored the next. It meant I was not going to let my past control my future. And I also realized that in order to develop the necessary muscle to forgive, we have to start right where we are. We have to start right where we are. We have to exercise it like any other muscle to build up the strength and courage and muscle and guts it takes to actually forgive somebody. So I started with that hard, ugly ball of resentment that I was carrying around and started to chip away at it just a little tiny bit at a time. And I started through prayer. I prayed for her. And then my prayers in the beginning were not sweetness and light. They were gritted teeth, something like, I pray that she gets everything good I want for myself, damn it. Usually while I was scrubbing the floor or pulling weeds, and I had the cleanest house and the tidiest yard in the neighborhood for a very long time. But I just kept at it. I just kept doing it. And then something started to happen. I actually started to believe it. I actually started to want for her the good things I wanted for myself. First thing I did was get rid of the damn it. And then I really started to feel that I wanted for her joy and peace and abundance and health and love. And finally I started to be able to shift and see things from her perspective. This was miraculous to me. It had never occurred to me before. I started to understand that she was stuck because she had no idea how to forgive. And the things she had to forgive were so much bigger than anything I was trying to forgive her for. I started to reduce that boulder of resentment into little pebbles. And then I could take each pebble into my heart, and there it just was reduced to dust and vanished. And eventually I could be around her, and sometimes it wasn't easy because I still had those buttons, you know, and my finger kept still going towards them. But they got pushed a lot less often, and I started to see her through compassionate eyes and not take it personally. And ultimately, that spiritual practice, forgiveness, along with another one that my AA sponsor also prescribed, the practice of gratitude, led me into spirituality. And you all know, because you're sitting here, that once you go there, everything changes. Everything changes. Spirituality taught me to work to see the divine in the one I'm trying to forgive. To realize it's the same divine that lives within me. And in today's reading, Ernest Holmes reminds us we shall see that God in us recognizes God in the other person until the God in the other person recognizes the God in us. This cannot be done by human will. It is only when we recognize that the pure essence of that spiritual principle inherent in all of us that we find that the thought arising from the atmosphere of spiritual realization has no adversary. Wow, I could live without adversaries. What a concept. I try to remember that today whenever I find myself in a place of unforgiveness. Whenever I find myself, you know, trying to mold a little piece of anger into a resentment. When I come at it from an atmosphere of spiritual realization, there's no there can't be an adversary. That place of spiritual realization is oneness and unity and unconditional love and unconditional life. There are no adversaries to that, right? That's the realm I want to dwell in. That's the realm I want us to dwell in, because when I stand there, I stand for love and compassion and equality and acceptance and celebration, and I stand against nothing. I want to stand for those things because this is the realm of the real with a capital R. This is the realm of heaven, and I think we're here to make heaven real on earth. Heaven isn't a place somewhere else. It's a way of being right here and right now, and that's really what we stand for at Centers for Spiritual Living everywhere. Is this global vision is based on that, and it's the same as the vision that has pulled mystics throughout the ages and all across the world. And today I want to share with you from one mystic who happens to be alive. We're lucky enough that he's still here. His name is Neil Douglas Klotz. And he is a student of Hebrew and Aramaic languages. And he wrote a really skinny little book that's totally transformational. It's called Prayers of the Cosmos. And it's a book of meditations on the words of Jesus as Jesus would have spoken them in Aramaic. And here's the difference. Aramaic is one of those wonderfully nuanced and complex languages where every word has several meanings. And Jesus used the words very well. And so the verse for today is one we all know. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. I'm going to say it once in Aramaic. Never ask me to say it again. Wash boklan chayban wachtahain eikan adafchan shogan lachayaban. The intent of that original language can be translated in a couple of ways, several ways, and the words all have these meanings. One is loose the cords of mistake binding us as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. Forgive us our hidden past, the secret shames, as we consistently forgive what others hide. Lighten our load of secret debt as we relieve others of their need to repay us. Erase the inner marks our failures make, just as we scrub our hearts of others' fault. Absorb our frustrated hopes and dreams as we embrace those of others with emptiness. Untangle the knots within so that we can mend our heart's simple ties to others. Compost our inner stolen fruit as we forgive others the spoils of their trespassing. Loose the cords of mistakes binding us as we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. The first word, washboklan, means forgive, but it also means return to its original state. So when we're forgiving, we're returning ourselves to that original, clear, unburdened state that we're born into. And it also affirms that forgiveness is an ongoing process. We have to keep returning to our original state. Because who among us doesn't get our cords all knotted up? Who among us doesn't hold on to the strands of others' guilt rather than simply releasing them and tending to the ties between our hearts and theirs? We need returning to our original state over and over and over again. That's what forgiveness is all about. And these translations, for me, point out two very fundamental mystical truths. The first is that God, Abun in Aramaic, is holding nothing against us. Absolutely nothing. Our original state is pure love, divine life, that we're born already in God when we can never be separate from it. The second is that the universe is reciprocal. The first line in each couplet is Abun, radiant one, birther of the cosmos, loose our cords, untangle our knots, forgive us our hidden secrets, lighten our load, as we loose the cords we hold of others, as we reconnect with others through forgiveness, as we relieve others of the need to repay us. As we forgive, we are also forgiven, because it's not God, It's not a wound that is holding anything against us. It's us. We're holding it against ourselves. So as we forgive, we are forgiven. We're not punished for our sins, said Ernest Holmes. We're punished by our sins. And of course, sin is mistake, tangled knots. And this is where we really get down to it, I think, is we forgive others in order that we may forgive ourselves. And we forgive ourselves in order that we may forgive others. It's a reciprocal kind of thing. And it requires muscle and courage to forgive ourselves. To go against the grain of what we're told and what we're taught to do. See if any of these statements resonate with your inner child. Don't think too much of yourself now. Don't get too big for your britches. Don't get a big head. We are trained from birth to think of ourselves as small and stupid and weak. So when we think when we're vast, when the thought crosses our mind that we might be vast and powerful and wise, something inside us says, don't get a big head. We have to forgive ourselves for holding our brilliance, our vastness, our power, our intelligence against ourselves. And we have to forgive ourselves for thinking of ourselves as small and weak and stupid. We are, in reality, and it takes courage to see this reality, in reality we are all of that. We are magnificent beyond imagining, wise, powerful, loving, deep, whole beings. And sometimes we get ourselves all tied up in knots. Sometimes we mess up and hold on to a resentment about somebody. Sometimes we say something that we wish we hadn't said. Sometimes we handle something badly. We're all of that. We're all of it. All of it, all of it. It takes courage to go against the statements of negativity and truly, deeply forgive ourselves so that we can return to our natural state of being. And what we learn to do instead is to project ourselves all over the place, right? We project the magnificent, the good, the wise, the powerful, and we admire it in somebody else. And we project the weak and the stupid and the mistaken, and we abhor it in somebody else. So what we've got to do is forgive ourselves for our projections. Until we forgive ourselves for that confusion, we can't really see the truth of ourselves, that we're all of that. But we have infinite wisdom and intelligence and guidance to help us through the naughty K-N-O-T-T-Y times, or N-A-U-G-H-T, whichever applies. We're all of that. We're all of that, and there's nothing to be forgiven for any of it. There's only self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others, which helps us grow in wisdom and courage and love and joy and peace. Abun, the creator of the universe, holds nothing against us. Forgiveness is not weakness, not by a long shot. It's one of the most courageous things we as human beings are called to do, I think. It's not passive. It's not for the faint of heart. It calls us to know the depth of our own being, to dig down into the depths of our own courage, and to really trust our relationship with that basic nature that's within each one of us, the nature of God, the God of our understanding, that which dwells within us as life itself. A colleague of mine shared a practice she had that I think is so beautiful. She says, I forgive myself for making blank the object of my feelings of unworthiness. Fill in the blank with whatever it is. I forgive myself for making my mother the object of my feelings of unworthiness. I forgive myself for making my job the object of my feelings of unworthiness. Whatever applies. I forgive myself for making my ex-spouse the object of my feelings of unworthiness. You get the picture. We're taking responsibility, and we're understanding that we're projecting our own feelings of unworthiness onto another. And when we start to do a practice like that, or a practice that requires us to really mine the depths of our own courage, and to really be willing to forgive that person that we have objectified our stuff onto, and ourselves for doing the projecting. We're bringing ourselves back to our true self, to our true nature every time. And we do it over and over and over. Jesus wasn't the only one to say, you just keep doing it as many times as it takes. That's what 70 times 7 really means. Just as long as it takes, as many times as it takes. We keep doing it. We start to bring ourselves repeatedly back to that natural state, which is this divine radiance expressed as human being. And then we can start to live from that natural state. We don't have these big buildups of knots of resentment anymore. We start to realize that we spend most of our time in harmony and in peace and in joy and in contentment, and that by so doing, by being willing to forgive ourselves and others, we have created a little piece of heaven on earth, and we're walking around in it. We have returned to the love that we already are. And that, I think, is our goal here as human beings, is to find the ways that we can live from our true nature, creating heaven on earth. And when I do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it, we create these little pieces of heaven on earth that pretty soon start to coalesce into a world that really does work for everyone. So join me, if you will, in just turning within for a moment, as we recall a very fundamental truth of our being, that there is only one. There is only one that is made up of infinite, unconditional love, of life and the instinct for creation, of joy, the instinct for taking joy in all things, of harmony, and the instinct for seeing harmony everywhere we look, of deep contentment, deeper peace, greater wisdom and abundance, and health and well-being. God is all of that, and it is right where we are. It lives in the middle of us. It surrounds us on all sides. We swim in an ocean of spirit, and yet we are all ocean, each one of us. As we rest in that truth, we remember that there can only be this one, and that wherever it is, it all is. Nothing separates us from that peace and joy and abundance and health and well-being. It is closer than our heartbeats. It is the very breath we breathe. And so as we rest in this truth, I know for each one of us, that clear seeing, and trust in the process allows us to forgive all of our projections and anyone we have projected upon. Allows us to say yes to love, allows us to move back into our true nature, to live from it, to spread it around wherever we go, so that we create lives that are lived in heaven, right here and right now. I know that each one of us has all the courage necessary, all the wisdom necessary, all the clear vision necessary to forgive and forgive and forgive until we realize there is no adversary. There is only one. And from that, we reap all of those benefits of unity and harmony and joy and peace and well-being. I know this is simply the truth about us, about each one of us. It is who we are, and I give thanks for it. I give thanks for this time in which to remember that truth of ourselves. This time in which to see it in one another. This time to celebrate it. And in thanksgiving, I simply let go, I release, I trust the infinite law of the universe that is always reciprocal, that always says yes when we do. So we say a resounding yes, and hear that resounding yes coming back from Spirit. Thank you, God. And we say together, and so it is. It's a great tune. Whew. So a couple of announcements. First, I just want to say congratulations to Mary Ann and Jonathan, who got married here yesterday afternoon. Congratulations, newlyweds. We had a lovely time, except my electronics decided to blink out in the middle of it. It was a little panicky, but you know. And as I got here to do the wedding, Chris Volker was here, and he was working, and I had to throw him out. Chris, will you come here for a sec? Come here. Come here. I have to tell you a little bit about Chris. First, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. This is a card from the Leadership Council. Thank you. I have to tell you, he can fix anything. And if it doesn't need fixing, he can make it better, make it work better. He's just an amazing guy, and he does so much around here. So he's made our lighting better. He's made our HVAC system, that thing that blows hot and cold air. It's better. We're so grateful. Thank you very, very much. We love you. I wanted to just remind you in your bulletin there is a notice on this page here. Where is it? There it is. It's his 70th anniversary. That's a save the date reminder. We are going to be 70 years old this fall, and so on September 24th, our licensed practitioners will be featured in a spiritual Saturday where anybody can walk in and walk a modified labyrinth and receive prayer and learn about affirmations and do meditation and so much more. Then on Sunday, the spiritual leader of our whole movement, Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon, will be with us. He'll be speaking on at the Sunday service, and then we are going to have a lovely brunch afterwards. Our SVPs will be required for the brunch to watch your mail for a postcard in the next couple of weeks. And the reason is because we want to make sure we have enough food and enough seats for everybody. Part of that celebration is going to be, we hope, a burning of our mortgage on this building. We're down to about $12,500, and so we've gone out and asked some of our real strong supporters, and we've got about 30% of that already pledged or contributed. So beginning next week, we're going to pass around a second basket with a special envelope so you all have an opportunity to contribute what you wish to that effort. It's a matter of clearing a really old debt in order to free us up to move into what Spirit has in mind for us next. And so by September, we'll hopefully be having a great big burning bowl up here with a mortgage in it. So take a look at the very last page of your bulletin insert as well, where it says upcoming events. There is a whole bunch coming up. I don't want you to miss anything. So we've pretty much listed hot summer fun, a whole bunch of things that are happening. One of those is, of course, our workshop for women on Saturday, August 6th with Reverend Cynthia James. The price of admission is simply to purchase her new book, which is available in the bookstore. So, or you can also get it on Amazon. Cynthia's fabulous, and I think you all, those of you who have experienced her before, will love it. And then on Sunday, it's August 7th, she'll be speaking here at the service and probably singing her prayer as she always does. She's an extraordinary woman. So, and happening today after the service, is that still true? Okay. In the library, with Linda Andriaco is a meeting for any of you interested in serving with the Stewardship and Compassionate Care Ministry. The two have been combined because it's really about care for the whole of us, our people, and our home and our finances and all of it. So if you have a heart caring for other people, please join Linda Andriaco in the library for this short meeting. It's just around the corner, right after service. Also join us for food and fellowship in the Consciousness Cafe after service. There is, I know there's cupcakes. And there's also a whole bunch of Dorothy Lane bread, which you're welcome to take with you. And finally, if there's something in your life that you would like some prayer for, and when is that never true? We can all use prayer all the time, even if something is good and we want it to be better, or it's great and we want more great. Just walk up to any of the beautiful women wearing the teal or white stoles and say you'd like prayer, and they will take you into one of the more private areas and pray for you. It's their gift to you on Sunday mornings. If you're having a really difficult challenge, consider making an appointment with one of them for a full practitioner session. I think the results will amaze you. So I want to say thanks to everybody who made our service possible this morning. You, first of all, for showing up. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Our ushers and greeters, our practitioners, our welcome team, the Consciousness Cafe team, these amazing musicians, thank you so much, Higher Mind Band. Thank you, everybody. So let's, oh my God, yes. Don't let me forget to do that. Thank you. Becky just reminded me that on the 16th is the annual canoe and kayak outing and picnic. 9:30 at Bellbrook Canoe Rental. If you want to canoe or kayak, it's only $10 a person. Or $15 if you're going to want to take a solo kayak. And then at 12 or 12:30 there'll be a picnic. So even if you don't want to go canoeing or kayaking, join us for the picnic, which will be at one of their shelters at about 12:30. That information and contact information is on the back page here. So check with Gary or Kelly, or sign up over on, hopefully, yeah, there's a sign-up sheet over on the bulletin board. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff happening. You will never find a dull moment around here. So let's stand up, do our closing affirmation and our closing song, which is Holy Ground. So please repeat after me. I have the courage to forgive.
I have the courage to forgive.
I forgive myself.
I forgive myself.
I forgive all others.
I forgive all others.
I open the way to love.
I open the way to love.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
You